The 2017 legislative session is underway. One of the many ways you serve the citizens of the 6th District in Washington State is on designated House committees. What committees will you be serving on this session?
Well, this year is totally new. I'm the ranking minority on Higher Education Committee, which is rather interesting. I was on the committee before a couple of different sessions, but be dropped in such a high capacity, high volume committee in the midst of higher education being de-emphasized over the last number of years here presents some really unique and specific challenges that we're having to address. I'm on the Rules Committee, which is great because Rules Committee is that last checkpoint when everything goes all the way through the committee that they're assigned to and makes it through the money committees, appropriations or finance, this kind of a thing here, or transportation, and finally gets queued up to go to the floor. The Rules Committee, each member gets to choose the number of bills that are going to get pulled that they'll bring to the floor themselves as a matter of choice. Great committee to have access to here, to pick and choose the things I find are important. Third committee is Public Safety, which I've been on before, and I'm back. I was on state government for a couple of sessions here, and basically it's a good fit for me. My background is a retired police officer out of the city of Spokane. Also, my 26 years as an attorney, I've had a chance to prosecute and do defense work. Give me kind of a unique context and perspective to the issues that are presented.
Every session, priorities are established to set the tone of the work to be done during these next 105 days. What are your key priorities to set the identity of this session?
This session is interesting. Every session takes on a personality, and the personality we're seeing this time is almost intense or nervous. Usually with a long session, we'll end up starting out with about 40 days until you have that cutoff, that break to where you no longer present bills in committee and things move on. First, second, third day here, everybody is rather intense about having things heard and getting position here. A part of the reason I think has to do with the elephant in the room that has to do with McCleary, the Supreme Court decision that mandates that Article 9, Section 1 of the state constitution requires funding basic education is not a paramount duty, it's the paramount duty of the state. That provides us with a very sound statutory structure, a constitutional structure that tells us exactly what we need to do first, and then move on to discretionary items where we actually have the ability to budget proportionally afterwards. That's going to be a big issue to be taken care of here early in the session, hopefully. 40 years ago, higher education was about 75 to 80% subsidized. We are effectively inverse. We're about 20 to 25% subsidized. 80% of the cost is out of the pocket of the students and their families at this point, or student loans or other vehicles out there that help to finance the cost of an education. I'm moving towards reprioritizing higher education. We've seen a reduction in some of the larger four-year universities' tuition in the last couple of years, but the dent that actually puts in the total cost of education isn't exactly what we'd like to see to provide affordability to students so they can actually afford to attend a state university. And when you talk about a state university, for example, having a total cost of a year's school, 1 year's school, be somewhere between $28,000 to $29,000. You begin to understand how we limit the access to higher education. It's important. Police and fire have been literally under attack for a number of years now, and to reprioritize and to emphasize protecting our public safety employees here is an extremely important concern to me at this point here, and we'll be meeting with several of the committees. One this afternoon, as a matter of fact, having to do with protecting police and the enforcement duties that they provide and the protection they provide to our communities, making sure that they have the ability to operate without fear of political retaliation themselves. They can make quality decisions for the right reasons, which is what we want them to do. And one last piece is protecting the north-south corridor in Spokane. That is the funding that was provided for that through the gas tax increase that I wasn't a large fan of, nor I don't think most of the people in the 6th District, according to the polling, were large fans of. Nonetheless, we're paying it. We need to make sure that over the 16-year build-out period that we anticipate for the north-south corridor, that somewhere in the next 7 or 8 cycles of elections, that things don't change to the point where people decide to de-emphasize that, and what we've waited for 50 years to have happen, doesn't happen. That's very important.
Alongside your key priorities, what types of legislation or bills will we see you propose this session?
Well, as always, there's a certain group in the Republican caucus that tends to first look to the state constitution, Article 1, Section 1, which states that all power is inherent in the people And it is the purpose of government to protect individual rights. That is a foundation for everything we do. Yes, look for that in most of the bills that are passed to make sure that we're following the state constitution at its very core. You see several bills in a package attempting to rule in government agency rulemaking without legislative oversight. We've seen some things out there that individual agencies may have the intent to accomplish their agency's mission, but not cooperating or operating within the larger context of all the other agencies of the state government and coming up with a balanced perspective. So we find competing interests out there that sometimes are detrimental to the process of the things that are simple: business growth and development, economic development, the ability to come and start a business in Washington State, protecting our environment, but doing so with a reasonable balance. All these things come into play. We want to address that, having some legislative oversight to make sure that the package is working as a whole. And some bills you'll find that, again, in the 6th District, in Spokane County, greater Spokane County as a whole, we want to go ahead and do things that will foster economic development. We are a service-based economy in Spokane. We need to attempt to support, foster, institute, help grow manufacturing, supply chain-based, institutional, even base core businesses that move beyond having just minimum wage jobs that Spokane has so many of, but the things that provide a living wage job we're a bit short on.